Hey, what's up, everyone? Today I've got some stuff that'll keep you on edge. If you enjoy it, hit subscribe and leave a like. Here we go. My 24 female night shift manager keeps a binder with each employee's name on the tab, and I finally looked inside mine. This was posted to r/let's not meet 6 days ago by Graveyard Shift Girl. I need you to pay close attention to this one because every single detail she drops is going to matter later. She opens the post real calm, almost too calm for what she is about to describe. I, 24 female, have been working overnight stock at a big box retail store for about 8 months now. The shift runs 11 to 7. Small crew, maybe 6 of us total, and the store is dead quiet once the doors lock. You get used to the hum of the fluorescent lights and the sound of your own footsteps on tile. Our night manager, I will call him Dave, is mid-40s, always polite, always watching. He is one of those guys who remembers everything you say, not in a friendly way, more like he is filing it somewhere. He carries this thick 3-ring binder everywhere he goes, tabs on the side with each employee's name written on them. We all joked about it, called it the Bible. Nobody ever actually looked inside, though. One night, during a delivery rush, Dave left the binder sitting on the returns counter. I don't know what made me do it, but I walked over and flipped to my tab. What I found made my hands shake. Time-stamped logs of every outfit I wore per shift, how long each of my restroom breaks lasted down to the minute, who I talked to in the break room and for how many minutes, printed screenshots from my public Instagram and Facebook, and at the very back of my section, a printed photo of my apartment building with the building circled in red marker. I closed it. I put it back exactly where it was, and I walked back to stacking freight like nothing happened. She just closed it and walked away. Did not scream, did not confront him, did not tell a single person on that shift. She kept stacking freight with shaking hands. And honestly, that restraint is what makes this story so unsettling, because what comes next makes that binder look like a warm-up. So now she knows what's in that binder, and she can't unknow it. But here's the thing about working nights. You still have to clock in the next day, walk through those same automatic doors, and stand in the same aisles next to the same guy and pretend everything is normal. After that night, I couldn't stop watching him. And once you start paying attention, you see it everywhere. He always assigned himself to the aisle right next to mine, every single shift without exception. I'd sit down in the break room, and within 60 seconds, he'd walk in, coffee already in hand, like he'd been standing around the corner waiting for me to sit down. Then came the comments. He'd say things like, "Oh, that restaurant you went to this weekend looked nice." Casual, friendly, except I never told him where I went. He was pulling it straight from my Instagram stories from the night before. I told one coworker, Denise, about the binder. She just shrugged and said he does that with everyone, said it's how he manages, and I shouldn't make it weird. That conversation made me feel like I was losing my mind. But 2 weeks later, he left the binder out again during a truck delivery, and I got my phone and photographed every single page under my tab. 17 pages. I drove to corporate HR that same morning before I even went home, showed them everything. They looked through the photos, nodded, wrote things down, then told me it qualified as performance documentation. The social media screenshots? Public profiles, not a policy violation. They said they'd speak to him about boundaries. That was it. Nothing changed after that. He didn't seem angry or nervous. He didn't act like he knew I'd filed anything at all. And somehow that calm was the scariest part of everything. She handed them the whole package. The tracking logs, the outfit notes, the printed screenshots, the photo of her apartment building with a circle around it. And the system looked at all of that and gave her back a pamphlet answer. Performance documentation, boundaries conversation, case closed. And the manager? Same guy, same smile, same clipboard, same binder tucked under his arm every single shift, like that complaint never existed. She couldn't tell if he didn't know or if he just didn't care, and she still isn't sure which answer is worse. After HR brushed it off, things didn't go back to normal. They got quieter, and that was worse. The next few weeks were subtle, but I felt every shift in his behavior. He wasn't angry, he wasn't cold, he was precise. He started greeting me by the exact minute I clocked in. 8:52 tonight, nice. Like he was letting me know he was watching in real time. I stopped wearing anything that stood out. I rotated my parking spot every shift. I started taking different routes home, doubling back through neighborhoods I'd never driven through, checking my mirror the whole way. One morning, I found printed articles in the break room about workplace loyalty and the cost of disloyalty in team environments. Nobody claimed them. I asked 2 coworkers and they just shrugged. I wanted to quit, but I couldn't. I had rent due and nothing else lined up. So I did the only thing I could think of. I bought a dash cam. Cheap one off Amazon. I mounted it facing outward from my windshield toward the parking lot so it would record the whole time I was inside working. I told myself it was just a precaution, but I knew I was building a case because nobody else was going to build one for me. The comment section on this one was not messing around. The fact that HR called that performance documentation is genuinely insane. Logging bathroom times and clothing? That's not a write-up, that's a stalker's journal. The way you describe him being so casual about the binder sitting on his desk is what gets me. He's not even hiding it, he's daring someone to say something. The circled photo of your apartment building is what made my stomach drop. That means he drove there, identified the building, then went home and printed it. That's methodical. That's exactly what broke me. I never told him where I live. I never even mentioned the neighborhood. The photo was from Google Street View, but it was zoomed in on my specific unit. You could see my curtains. I sat in the break room for 20 minutes after I saw it, just trying to breathe normally. That image stays with you. Alone in the break room, hands flat on the table, just trying to remember how to breathe. A few days later, OP came back with an update post. And honestly, this is the one that changes everything. I got the dash cam footage, and I'm breaking my lease this weekend. I really wish I didn't have an update. I reviewed the dash cam footage from the store parking lot first. His car was there after my shifts ended, just sitting in the lot for 10, 15 minutes after I walked to my car. I told myself maybe he was finishing paperwork. Maybe that's just what managers do. Then I repositioned the dash cam to face the street outside my apartment on my nights off. Tuesday night, I wasn't scheduled. He wasn't scheduled. At 3:14 a.m., his car is parked directly across from my building. Engine off, no headlights. I can see his silhouette in the driver's seat. He is just sitting there, not on his phone, not doing anything, just watching my windows. And on the passenger seat, there is a binder, a second binder. It is visibly thicker than the one at work. I watched that clip maybe 40 times. I kept pausing on his silhouette, on that binder, trying to make out what was on the cover. I could not read it, but I could see the tabs. There were a lot of tabs, way more than the number of employees at the store. I filed a police report the next morning and handed over the footage. The officer actually took it seriously this time. The comment section on this update was not playing around. I worked loss prevention for 6 years. I have seen employee performance binders. They do not contain outfit descriptions and social media screenshots. This is not normal. Do not let anyone tell you it is. HR knows that is not standard documentation. They are protecting the company from liability, not protecting OP. The moment she filed that complaint, they started building a paper trail to cover themselves. Please tell me you photographed every single page in that binder. If this escalates, you are going to want proof before it conveniently disappears. That second binder is the detail that sits with you. The one at work was alarming enough, but a thicker one on the passenger seat of his car at 3 a.m. outside her apartment, that is not management. That is obsession with a filing system. So the police took the report. The manager got placed on administrative leave, not fired, not arrested, just administrative leave. And for about 2 weeks after that, nothing, just dead silence. 2 weeks went by and I heard nothing. No calls, no sightings, no weird gut feelings in parking lots. I genuinely started to think maybe the system actually worked for once. Then I came out after a shift and found a folded piece of paper tucked under my windshield wiper. It was a printed Google Maps route from his address to mine. Every single turn highlighted, estimated arrival time included. I did not go back inside the store. I sat in my car, locked the doors, and called my manager's boss to quit right there over the phone. I did not even go back for my locker stuff. I called my landlord the next morning and told him I needed out of my lease immediately. I was in a completely different city by the end of that week. New phone number, new address, new everything. And here's the part that still makes me sick. I check maybe once every few months because I cannot help it. His LinkedIn still lists him at that same store. Same title, same role, same night shift. Administrative leave apparently just meant a paid vacation. He is still there, still stocking shelves, still carrying that binder around. And whoever they hired to replace me on that overnight crew has a tab with their name on it right now. One comment on this post stuck with me. Has anyone else at your job seen their tab? I'd be getting every single coworker to check theirs, because I guarantee yours isn't the only one that detailed. And honestly, that is the question right there. How many tabs were in that binder, and how many of them looked like hers? But what really stays with me about this story is not the binder itself. It is not even the car parked outside her apartment at 3 in the morning. It is that every single system that was supposed to protect this woman just converted his behavior into paperwork. HR called it performance documentation. The police called it a filed report. The store called it administrative leave. And months later, he is right back in that building doing the same job on the same shift. So tell me in the comments, what would you have done differently? But stick around because the next story is waiting, and trust me, it does not let up. My mom has been making my dad these herbal tonics for months, and he's deteriorating fast. She won't let him see a doctor. This one sat with me for a while, posted to r/offmychest by Worried Daughter 04 about 6 days ago. And I need you to really pay attention to the details on this one because every single one of them matters. What she found waiting for her is the kind of thing you don't come back from. I've been living a few states away for work. I hadn't visited my parents in about 5 months, which I feel awful about now. I drove home for my dad's birthday weekend, pulled into the driveway, and everything looked the same. Same house, same garden, mom greeting me at the door with a warm hug and fresh tea. Then I saw my dad. He's lost maybe 30 to 40 pounds. His skin has this yellowish tint. He was sitting in his recliner and seemed confused about what day it was. I asked Mom what was going on, and she just waved it off. He's been a little under the weather. I walked into the kitchen, and there were dozens of mason jars and bottles everywhere. Mom explained she's been making herbal tonics for a liver imbalance that doctors wouldn't understand. I told her he needs to see a doctor. She got calm, too calm, tilted her head and said, "I know what's best for your father." That night, I couldn't sleep. I went downstairs and noticed the laundry room door was cracked open. Inside, there was a locked cabinet I'd never seen before. Found the key sitting on top of the dryer. I opened it. Dozens of unmarked bottles, a digital scale, and a notebook. Dated entries tracking dosages with notes like, "Increased tremor, good," and "Reduced appetite, on schedule." My hands were shaking. I photographed everything. I sat on the laundry room floor for I don't know how long, just staring at those pages. That's where this one leaves us. Standing in her parents' laundry room in the middle of the night, holding a phone full of photos she wishes she never took. And that notebook, those entries weren't someone trying to heal a sick husband. That was someone keeping score. This story is just getting started. So Opie has seen the notebook. She knows exactly what those dosage logs mean. And now she has to go downstairs, sit at that kitchen table, and pretend like her world didn't just shatter. That is a level of composure I cannot even imagine. I barely slept. Came downstairs and Mom was already in the kitchen, humming, cutting herbs on a board, fresh batch brewing on the stove. The smell was sharp, almost metallic. Dad shuffled in and she poured him a glass like it was orange juice. He drank the whole thing, smiled at her and said thank you. I wanted to scream. I pulled Mom aside after breakfast, kept my voice steady, said I wanted to take Dad to urgent care, just a quick checkup. She didn't yell, didn't get defensive. She smiled, tilted her head to the side, and said, "Sweetheart, if you take him to a doctor, they'll pump him full of chemicals and he'll be dead in a month. I'm the only thing keeping him alive." So calm, so certain, like she was telling me the sky was blue. At dinner, Dad's hands were shaking so bad he could barely hold his fork. He called me by my mother's name. Twice. I called my brother that night. He said Mom has always been into holistic stuff and Dad probably just has the flu. Told me I was overreacting. I took one of the unmarked bottles from the cabinet when they were asleep, drove 40 minutes to a friend who works at a university lab and begged her to test it. Then I went back and started documenting everything. Photos of Dad, videos, timestamps on all of it. Now, I wait. And this is what really gets under my skin about this part. Her own brother brushed her off. Her dad doesn't even know what is happening to him. She is standing in the middle of all of this completely alone, with a stolen bottle and nothing but hope that the results come back before it is too late. That bottle is sitting at a university lab right now, and whatever those results say is going to change this family forever. So OP drives back to her parents' house, and what she walks into is the kind of scene that doesn't leave you. I went back the next morning. I had to. I couldn't leave him there alone with her. When I walked in, Mom was in the kitchen making a fresh batch. She was humming. Not absent-minded humming, it was steady, almost rhythmic. She had everything laid out on the counter like a chemistry set. Measuring spoons, the scale, those unmarked bottles lined up in a row. She measured each thing with this eerie precision, wiped down every surface after, put everything back in the exact same spot. It looked rehearsed, like she'd done it hundreds of times. I waited until she went out to the garden and sat with Dad alone. He looked at me, and for maybe 2 minutes he was fully there. He grabbed my hand and said, "I think I'm dying, sweetheart. Your mother says it'll pass." Then his eyes just glazed over mid-sentence, and he drifted off. I went upstairs to my old bedroom and cried harder than I have in years. I called my brother again and sent him every photo of the notebook. He went dead silent. Then he just said, "What are you saying?" I told him I didn't know yet. I was waiting on the lab results. That night, I couldn't sleep. At 2 a.m., I heard her moving around downstairs. Footsteps, cabinet doors, the clink of glass bottles. I just lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to my mother do whatever she was doing in the middle of the night. The comments on this one were not holding back. The notebook is what got me. Increased tremor. Good. That's not someone who thinks she's helping. That's someone running an experiment on a human being. You always were his favorite. I hope that keeps you warm. I physically recoiled reading that. Please stay safe, OP. People like this don't stop when they're caught, they adapt. Please tell me you saved that notebook as evidence. That thing is a literal murder diary written in real time. I photographed every single page before I called the police. All 40+ pages. She had columns, date, dosage, his symptoms, and a column just labeled mood, which I think was tracking whether he was too alert to notice what she was giving him. The police have the original now. I keep looking at the photos on my phone and I can't stop shaking because her handwriting is so neat. It's the same handwriting from my birthday cards growing up. OP came back 4 days later with an update post. And yeah, this is where everything breaks open. I got the lab results back, and my father is in the ICU. I'm writing this from a hospital parking lot because I can't stop shaking long enough to drive. The lab results came back. The tonic my mother has been giving my father every single day contains concentrated oleander extract. For anyone who doesn't know, oleander is a cardiac glycoside. In sustained doses, it causes slow, progressive organ failure, heart arrhythmia, liver damage, neurological decline. Every single symptom my dad has been showing. I called 911 the second I got the results. Paramedics arrived and took my father out on a stretcher. He was in critical condition. Liver and kidney function severely compromised. Cardiac irregularities across the board. The doctor pulled me aside and told me if he had kept taking it for another few weeks, he likely would not have survived. Then, while I was going through my parents' documents trying to find his insurance info for the hospital, I found a life insurance policy. $750,000 on my father, dated 14 months ago, right before the tonic started. I sat in this parking lot and I screamed until my throat was raw. I don't know who my mother is. I don't think I ever did. That life insurance detail sent the comment section into freefall. The calm voice is what scares me the most. Not rage, not denial, just calm. That's someone who planned every step and already has a contingency for getting caught. This is textbook instrumental aggression. She's not emotionally dysregulated, she's goal-oriented. The calm isn't a mask, it's the actual person underneath. The warmth was the mask. For 14 months. ICU nurse here. Oleander poisoning mimics natural cardiac decline in older patients. If you hadn't gotten that sample tested, they might have just called it heart failure. Your instincts saved his life. No one in that thread had any words of comfort left, just horror. And we are not done yet. So here's where everything landed. And I'll be honest, this ending didn't sit right with me for a long time after I first read it. My dad is in the ICU. He's stabilized, and the doctors say they're cautiously optimistic. But they warned me there's likely going to be lasting organ damage. Liver, kidneys, possibly neurological. They said another few weeks on that stuff, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. My mom was arrested and charged, but she posted bail. My brother finally called me that night. He could barely get the words out. He kept saying he was sorry, that he should have listened to me, that he's never going to forgive himself for brushing me off when I first told him something was wrong. I told him I don't blame him. I really don't. None of us wanted to see it. Then, 2 nights after the arrest, my phone rings. Unknown number. I almost didn't pick up, but I did, and it was her. Her voice was perfectly calm, perfectly warm, the exact same voice that used to sing me to sleep when I was little. She said, "You always were his favorite. I hope that keeps you warm." Then the line went dead. I'm staying at a friend's place now. I filed for a restraining order this morning. I don't know how to explain what I feel. My dad might pull through, but my mother, the woman I thought she was, is gone. She's still walking around out there somewhere. I don't know how you grieve someone who's still alive. That last line from OP stayed with me. And the comments on this one, yeah. I cannot wrap my head around the fact that she tracked his suffering like a science project. 14 months of watching him wither and adjusting the dose. That's not a breakdown, that's patience. And that's the thing that stays with you after this one. It was never the poison itself, it was the patience behind it. Months and months of sitting across the table from a man she was slowly killing, smiling, pouring his tea, adjusting the dose, writing it all down like it was a recipe she was perfecting. What would you have done if you walked into your parents' house and found that notebook? I want you to actually sit with that for a second. All right, the next story is waiting, and trust me, it doesn't get any lighter from here. I, 26 female, found a photo of my dead grandparents on a taxi driver's dashboard in a country they never visited. This one was posted to r/nosleep 3 days ago by Layover in Lisbon. It reads like a normal travel post for about 30 seconds. Then it really doesn't. Now, before we get into this, the setup matters. Pay attention to the small details here because almost every single one of them comes back later in a way you will not expect. I, 26 female, just landed in Lisbon about 6 hours ago, and I'm writing this from my hotel room because I genuinely don't know who else to tell. I booked this trip on impulse after probably the worst year of my life. Lost my job, ended a long relationship, spent 3 months barely leaving my apartment in Columbus. Portugal felt far enough away to breathe. My flight got in around 9 p.m. and I grabbed a cab outside the terminal. The driver was older, maybe mid-60s, warm eyes, spoke decent English with a thick Portuguese accent. Nice guy. I climbed in the back and we started moving, and that's when I saw it. There was a faded photograph tucked behind the GPS mount on his dashboard. I almost didn't look twice, but something about it pulled my eyes back. It was my grandparents. I'm not guessing. It was the exact photo that hangs in my mother's hallway back in Ohio. My grandma Dorothy and my grandpa Bill, standing outside their church, same clothes, same pose, same crease in the upper right corner. They never left the United States. Not once. I tried to stay calm and asked him about the photo. He glanced at it, smiled softly, and said her name, Dorothy. Then he looked at me in the rearview mirror and said, "She told me you would come eventually." I couldn't move. The rest of the ride was completely silent. He dropped me at the hotel, refused my money, and drove off before I could get his name or his plate number. Dorothy. A name he had no business knowing. A photograph that shouldn't exist outside of one hallway in Ohio. And a sentence that sounds like it belongs in a movie. Except she's alone in Lisbon, and it just happened to her 20 minutes ago. That's where this first post ends. But she doesn't leave it alone. And what she starts pulling on next turns this from strange into something much darker. So she's back at her hotel, and the adrenaline from that cab ride is fading into something worse. She's cycling through every rational explanation she can find. Jet lag. Coincidence. A photo that only looked similar under bad lighting and exhaustion. And for about 5 minutes, she almost convinces herself. Then she picks up the phone. I called my mom the next morning. Tried to keep it casual. Hey, that photo in the hallway, the one of Grandma Dorothy and Grandpa Earl at the church picnic? Were there ever copies made? She laughed, said, "Oh, honey, that's one of a kind. Taken at St. Anne's in Toledo, 1968. No negatives, no reprints, nothing." I didn't tell her what I saw. I went back to the airport taxi stand that same afternoon, described the driver to every cabbie lined up there. Older man, maybe 60s, kind eyes, spoke English with a heavy Portuguese accent. Blank stares across the board. Described the car. Nothing. Nobody had ever seen him. I spent the next 2 days trying to find any connection between my grandparents and Portugal. Grandpa was a machinist from Toledo his entire working life. Grandma never left the house for a job. Neither of them ever owned a passport. There is nothing tying them to this country. But something about Lisbon shifted after that first night. Not threatening exactly. More like the city was aware of me. I started visiting a cafe near the taxi stand every morning, watching the road, hoping to spot the cab again. On day 3, the barista set my coffee down, paused, looked at me for a second too long, and said, "You look like someone who used to get letters here." I froze, asked what she meant. She just shrugged and went back to the register. Forget I said anything. Now, a normal person might chalk that up to a strange coincidence and go enjoy the rest of their trip. But every answer OP chases just opens another door she did not want to walk through. No driver on record, no family connection to Portugal, no explanation for any of it. And then a barista in a random Lisbon cafe says she looks like someone who used to get letters there. Just drops it like it's nothing. Remember that line. It is going to come back around in a way that changes everything. OP had been carrying all of this alone for days, and this is where she finally breaks. I called my mom. I told her everything. The cab, the photo on the dashboard, the driver knowing Grandma's name, all of it. Long silence on the line. Not a thinking silence, a scared one. Then she got angry, told me I was being ridiculous, that I was exhausted and imagining things, and hung up. My mother has never hung up on me, not once in 26 years. That reaction told me more than anything she said. I spent the next hour going through every family photo on my phone, looking for anything connecting my grandparents to Portugal. A trip, a letter, a face in the background I didn't recognize. Nothing. So I tried the official route. Called the taxi company, gave them the date, time, pickup zone, a full description of the driver and his car. They got back to me within a day. No driver matching that description worked that shift, or any shift. No record of him at all. I sat in my hotel room and stared at the wall. Started wondering if I made the whole thing up, if something in me snapped from the stress and the jet lag and being alone in a foreign country. That is when I wrote the post. I needed someone to tell me I was not losing my mind. The post blew up, and a couple of comments in particular changed the direction of everything. I'm a genealogist, and I've seen stuff like this more than you'd think. Stillbirths in the 60s and 70s were sometimes not stillbirths at all. Forced adoptions happened constantly, especially if the mother was considered unfit for any reason. Those letters might be exactly what they sound like. This is what I've been circling around all week and couldn't say out loud. My grandmother was 19 when it happened, and her parents were deeply religious. My mom told me once, years ago, offhand, that Grandma had a rough time before she married Grandpa, and the family sent her to stay with an aunt in another state for a while. I didn't think anything of it at the time. Now I can't stop thinking about it. Has anyone considered that the grandparents did go to Portugal and the family just doesn't know? People in that generation kept entire lives secret. My own grandfather had a second family in another state for 11 years. OP screenshotted that genealogist comment and sent it straight to her mom. Read receipt came through almost immediately. No reply. And that silence said everything. OP went quiet for a few days after getting back to the States. Then she came back with an update post. My mother finally called me back, and I wish she hadn't. I'm home. I've been home for 4 days, and I haven't slept properly since I landed. My mom finally called me last night. She was crying before she even said hello. She told me something the family never talks about. In 1971, my grandmother had a baby girl. The baby was stillborn, or at least that's what everyone was told. The family grieved, buried it, moved on. Nobody spoke about it again. But when Grandma died 3 years ago, they found a box in the back of her closet. Dozens of letters, all handwritten, all addressed to a P.O. box in Lisbon, Portugal. Every single one started the same way, to the one who was raising her. My mom said they assumed it was grief, dementia maybe, old heartbreak that never healed. They didn't read them all. But after I told her about the taxi driver, she pulled them out and read every single one. The letters describe a man, older, kind eyes, Portuguese. He drives for a living. The description matches the driver I met exactly. Grandma wrote to this man for decades. She describes some kind of arrangement, a promise, something that happened in 1971 that she swore she'd never tell the family. My mom was hysterical. She kept saying, "I can't do this," over and over. Then she hung up. She hasn't answered a single call or text since. And the comments on this one went somewhere. I don't want to freak you out more, but the fact that a cab company has no record of this guy is the part I can't get past. Like, who was he? Who was he? Lisbon cabs are weird. A lot of older drivers work through informal arrangements, especially at certain stands near the airport. No app, cash only. Technically registered through a co-op that barely keeps records. It doesn't have to be supernatural for him to be untraceable, which honestly might be worse. Please talk to your mom. There's clearly something enormous she's been carrying. The fact that she went silent tells me she knows more than the letters. That last one sat with OP, because her mom didn't just go quiet after that call. She went completely dark. And whatever those letters describe, whatever promise her grandmother made in 1971, it was something she carried alone for over 50 years. A few days later, OP added one final edit to the post. And honestly, this is the part that hasn't left me since I first read it. I had to set my phone down after reading that part. Some posts just make you curious. This one felt like trespassing on something I was never supposed to see. And the comment that stuck with me most on this one. The birthmark detail at the end made my stomach drop. I was reading this thinking, okay, creepy coincidence, and then that last line just sat on my chest. And that's where OP left it. No resolution, no clean ending. Just a birthmark and a stack of letters, and a grandmother who kept something alive for decades without telling the one person it was all about. That's what stays with me. Some family secrets aren't buried, they're planted. And they grow in places you'd never think to look. The scariest part isn't the driver or the photo or even the letters. It's that OP's grandmother carried this for a lifetime, and the only person kept in the dark was the one at the center of all of it. But this isn't the only story where someone found out their family had been hiding something from them. The next one goes somewhere I genuinely did not see coming. My smart lock logged someone entering my apartment at 3:14 a.m. 6 times this month. I live alone. This one came out of r/let's not meet about 5 days ago. It starts with something small, just a notification on a phone screen that should not have been there. And it builds into something that kept me up at night. I live alone in a mid-rise apartment. Nothing special about my life. I got a smart lock about 8 months ago when I moved in because the old deadbolt felt flimsy. Never thought twice about it. A few days ago, I opened the app to check the battery and noticed something in the activity log. Door unlocked at 3:14 a.m. Relocked at 3:26 a.m. I figured it was a glitch, maybe a firmware thing. Then I scrolled down. 5 more entries, all between 3 and 4 a.m., spread across the entire month. I called my landlord immediately. He swore nobody else has the code, no maintenance was scheduled, nothing. I changed the code that night, bought a cheap indoor camera, and mounted it in the hallway facing the front door. I told myself I was overreacting. 2 nights later, the camera caught it. The front door opens inward at 3:11 a.m. A figure steps inside. For 11 minutes, this shape moves along the hallway wall toward my bedroom, but the camera angle only ever catches a shadow stretching across the wall. Never a face, never a clear frame. Then the shadow pulls back, the door closes, the lock clicks shut. I was asleep the entire time. I watched this footage the next morning and my hands would not stop shaking. 11 minutes. Someone was inside her apartment for 11 minutes while she slept, and the only proof she has is a shadow sliding across a hallway wall. No face, no body, just a shape that knew exactly where to move. This was posted 5 days ago by Locked Out Logic, and trust me, she is just getting started. She has the footage now. She's watched it more times than she can count. But instead of answers, all it gives her is something worse. Confirmation that this is real. I replayed that clip maybe 40 times. The shadow moves slow, not cautious slow, comfortable slow, like someone in their own home. And they never once crossed the camera's center frame, stayed along the wall the whole time. They already knew it was there. I filed a police report. The officers could not have cared less. No forced entry, nothing stolen. One asked if a boyfriend had the code. I told him I live alone, and I'm watching the footage on my phone right now. They said they'd follow up. I changed the code, bought a chain lock, wedged a chair under the doorknob, tried to stay awake past 3 a.m. Made it to about 2:40 before I passed out. Next morning, I grabbed my phone before I even opened my eyes. Smart lock log. Door unlocked at 3:22 a.m. Locked again 4 seconds later. They tried the door, hit the chain, and left. The chain held, but my code didn't. 12 hours and they already had it again. I started sleeping at a friend's place, but I can't do that forever. I emailed building management and asked directly, "Does this system have master access?" 4 seconds. That's how long they stood at her door. They felt the chain catch and just walked away. No rattling, no forcing it, just a quiet decision to come back another time. The chain lock did its job exactly once, but the real problem was never the door. Every new code she sets gets cracked almost immediately. This isn't someone guessing a 4-digit PIN. Whatever access this person has, it lives somewhere inside the building's own system. She's sleeping on a friend's couch. She's emailing management. She's pulling on the one thread that might actually explain this. And what she finds at the other end of it is going to change everything about how she understands the last 8 months in that apartment. So she reaches out to building management directly. And the guy who picks up is about to become the center of this whole thing. I called the front office and they connected me to the maintenance manager. I'd seen him around the building a few times. Quiet guy, probably mid-40s, always polite. He listened to everything I told him and seemed genuinely concerned. He said the master system only allows emergency access and that every use is logged. He offered to come up and personally inspect my lock and repair it to make sure nothing was compromised. I said yes. He came up the next day and spent about 20 minutes testing the lock, running through the pairing process, checking the firmware. When he left, he told me I was all set and that if anything else came up, I should call him directly. I felt a little better for about 2 hours. Then I pulled up the camera footage from his visit just to review it. Most of it was normal. Him crouched by the door, testing the keypad, checking his phone. But there was one moment. He was standing in the hallway and he looked up, directly into the camera lens. Not a glance, he held it, maybe 3 full seconds. And I had never told him about the camera. I was in the kitchen when it happened. He waited until I stepped away to look. I posted again that night asking what I should do, and the comment section on that second post went somewhere she was not ready for. The fact that your lock logged it means he either had the code or spoofed the credentials through the building system. Either way, your landlord needs to answer some very uncomfortable questions. It was the building system. The detective told me the maintenance portal lets managers generate temporary access codes for any unit, and there's zero logging on their end. Only my lock logged the entries because it's third-party hardware I installed myself. If I'd used the default lock the building provides, I never would have known. My landlord looked genuinely horrified when the police explained it to him. I believe he didn't know. The shadow moving along the hallway wall is going to live in my head for a very long time. You couldn't pay me to watch that footage. After that second post, OP went completely silent. 9 days. No replies, no edits, nothing. 9 days of silence. Then, OP came back with an update post. I checked the footage and I'm never going back to that apartment. I'm sorry I disappeared. I've been dealing with police and lawyers and I haven't slept more than a few hours at a time in over a week. After my last post, I took the advice a lot of you gave me and hired a locksmith who specializes in smart home security systems. He ran a full diagnostic on my lock and confirmed what some of you suspected. My credentials had been cloned through the building's master access panel. Someone with building-level access duplicated my key without generating a new code. It wouldn't show up as a separate entry. I brought this to the police along with my camera footage. This time, they took it seriously. Detectives got a warrant for the maintenance manager's devices. They found a folder on his work laptop. Inside were time-stamped photos of me sleeping, taken from inside my bedroom, from angles that made it clear he was standing right next to my bed. Some were taken from less than 2 feet away. The timestamps on the oldest photos go back 5 months, 3 months before I even installed the camera. He had been coming into my apartment and standing over me in the dark for months before I ever knew anything was wrong. He was arrested and charged. I am safe now, but I don't feel safe. I don't know when I will again. That last line just sits there, but the comments on this one went to a different place entirely. This is the kind of thing people don't believe until it happens to them. I had a maintenance guy let himself into my unit twice before I caught him. They have access to everything and nobody audits it. This is the part that wrecks me. There's basically no oversight for building staff access in most apartments. They can walk into any unit whenever they want, and unless the tenant installs their own monitoring, there's literally no record. The system is designed on trust, and that trust is insane. Please tell me you're not still living there. Change everything. Locks, apartment, city if you have to. This person has routines built around you. Over the next few days, Locked Out Logic's final comments trickled in. No new post, just quiet replies scattered across the thread, each one a little smaller than the last. The building's management company didn't fight me on breaking the lease. I think they knew how bad it would look if I pushed it further. I moved out within the week. I didn't just leave the apartment, I left the city. I'm somewhere new now, and I'm not saying where. I know that sounds paranoid, but I don't care anymore. I sleep with every single light on. I bought blackout curtains, but I keep the lamps burning all night because I can't handle waking up in the dark. And I do wake up. Every night, somewhere around 3 a.m., my eyes open and my heart is already pounding before I'm even fully conscious. I just lie there, staring at the ceiling, waiting for it to pass. I don't know if that's ever going to stop. I don't know if I'm ever going to feel safe sleeping again. I keep thinking about all those mornings I woke up and made coffee and went to work like everything was normal. It wasn't normal. He was there. I just didn't know it yet. Her account went quiet after that. No more replies, no more updates, just silence. And here's the thing that stays with me about this one. Sleep is the one time you are completely defenseless. You close your eyes, trusting that the room will be the same when you open them. She did that every single night. And every single morning she got up, made her coffee, went to work, lived her life, never knowing that hours earlier someone had been standing over her in the dark, close enough to hear her breathe. I literally just got up and checked my own front door after reading this. It's 2 a.m. Thanks for the new phobia. The smart lock was supposed to make her safer. Instead, it gave someone a silent key. And the most frightening part isn't that it happened, it's that she'll never know exactly how many times. That is the last story for today.